Have you ever felt like you're in the wrong place at the wrong time? Now, imagine that happening to you not once, but 3 times. And not just at any old event, but at 3 of the most shocking presidential assassinations in American history. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? Well, let me tell you about a man this actually happened to. What are the odds that one ordinary person would witness the exact moment 3 different presidents are attacked? The mathematical probability is astronomical, almost impossible. Yet this is the true story of Robert Todd Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's eldest son, who lived through one of the most disturbing and enigmatic coincidences in history. Today, we're going to unravel this mystery that has left historians puzzled for over a century. I'll show you the documented facts, the inexplicable connections, and the theories that try to make sense of the impossible. But hold on, because the most unsettling part isn't just that he was present at these 3 tragic events. What's truly chilling is how every time Robert Todd Lincoln appeared near a president, fate seemed to follow the same deadly pattern. And at the end of this story, I'll reveal the extreme decision he made to try and break this curse. Let's start at the beginning. The night of April 14th, 1865, at Ford's Theater in Washington. That night would change American history forever. President Abraham Lincoln was mortally attacked while enjoying a play with his wife. So, where was Robert Todd Lincoln? This is where the story becomes incredibly specific. Robert, who was 22 years old and had just graduated from Harvard, had been invited by his parents to join them at the theater. However, he decided to stay at the White House, exhausted after returning from the war front. When he received news of the attack, he rushed to the theater and then accompanied his dying father to the Peterson House, where Abraham Lincoln passed away the next morning. Robert was there, holding his mother while his father took his last breath. This traumatic moment would be only the first in an impossible series of coincidences. Let's fast forward 16 years to 1881. Robert Todd Lincoln had become a successful lawyer and businessman. President James Garfield personally invited him to join his cabinet as Secretary of War, a position of enormous prestige. On July 2nd of that year, Robert had planned to travel by train from Washington. Incredibly, he arrived at the station just as President Garfield was also there. According to historical records, Robert was just a few meters away when Charles Guiteau attacked President Garfield at the railway station. Robert ran toward the wounded president and was one of the first people to reach his side. Garfield would die weeks later from complications related to his wounds. Robert was deeply affected. 2 presidents, 2 tragedies, and he was there for both. But the story wasn't over yet. If this story is gripping you as much as it did me when I first discovered it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. I publish fascinating content like this every week, and trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next in this story. 20 years later, in 1901, Robert Todd Lincoln had reached an even more prominent position in American society. He was president of the Pullman Company and one of the country's most respected businessmen. President William McKinley invited him to the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. Robert accepted the invitation, though according to his own letters, he was beginning to feel a strange apprehension whenever he was near a sitting president. On September 6th, while Robert was on the exposition grounds, President McKinley was greeting the public at the Temple of Music. At that moment, Leon Czolgosz approached and mortally attacked McKinley. Although Robert wasn't in the exact room at the moment of the attack, he was in the same building complex and arrived shortly after the incident. McKinley died 8 days later. Robert Todd Lincoln had now been present at or near 3 presidential assassinations. The statistical probability of this occurring by pure chance is virtually 0. After this 3rd event, Robert Todd Lincoln made a drastic decision that reveals just how much this series of coincidences affected him. According to historical documents and personal letters, he publicly declared that he would never again accept official presidential invitations. In a letter to a friend, he wrote words that perfectly summarize his anguish. There is a certain fatality about presidential invitations to me. Robert was convinced that his presence was somehow an omen of tragedy. For the rest of his life, which extended until 1926, Robert systematically declined all invitations from sitting presidents. He lived with the psychological weight of having witnessed 3 of the darkest moments in American presidential history. Historians have debated this case extensively. Some argue that Robert was simply a prominent man who would naturally be present at important events. Others point out that the specificity of his presence at these 3 exact moments defies any rational explanation based solely on his social position. So what explains these impossible coincidences? Let's look at the possibilities. First, the statistical explanation. Yes, Robert was the son of a president and held important positions, which increased his probability of being near presidential events. However, when we calculate the actual odds of one specific person being present at the exact moment of 3 presidential attacks separated by decades, the numbers simply don't add up to pure chance. Second, some theorists have suggested darker connections, including conspiracies that have never been proven. But there is no serious historical evidence linking Robert to any conspiracy. In fact, his genuine anguish and his decision to distance himself from presidential events suggest the exact opposite. Most likely, we live in a universe where, occasionally, coincidences occur that are so extraordinary they defy our understanding. Robert Todd Lincoln was simply the involuntary recipient of one of the most documented runs of bad luck in history. The story of Robert Todd Lincoln reminds us that sometimes reality surpasses any fiction. This man carried a burden none of us can imagine: the repeated experience of witnessing violence against the most powerful leaders of his nation. His life is a testament to resilience, but also a reminder of how fragile our sense of control over destiny can be. Robert lived to be 82, and although he achieved great professional and personal success, he could never completely escape the shadow of those 3 tragedies. The next time you think you've had bad luck, remember Robert Todd Lincoln, the only man in history who was present at 3 presidential assassinations. If this story has fascinated you as much as it has me, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share it with someone who loves historical mysteries as much as you do. I have many more incredible stories prepared for you. See you in the next video. Until next time.